doesn't grow the crops.
Here with reaction, chairman of the American Conservative Union, our friend Matt Schlapp from the Washington Times, Fox News contributor Monica Crowley, author of the book, The Genius of America, How the Constitution Saved Our Country and Why It Can Save Us Again, the senior VP of News and Editorial Director at NPR. Now, I read your book a number of years ago. Michael Oreskes is with us. I read this book. The chapter on Reagan was brilliant.
Thank you.
So,
thank you.
I mean, I give you a lot of
brilliant chapters.
How did you get to NPR?
NPR is a great institution. Serious news.
I know, but we just don't want government funding. That's the only thing I'm for. All right, let's talk about Bloomberg's.
By the way, if you contribute more to us, we can reduce the government funding.
We've heard that before.
You're going to run the Hannity radio show on NPR?
I'm free after the show.
All right, so Liberal on Guns wants to tell us what we can drink and how much we can buy in terms of Coca-Cola or whatever we want to buy. You have to ask for salt in a New York restaurant. Gay marriage, who does he hurt here if he gets in?
So here's what this is about. Mike Bloomberg sees an opening up the middle if the Democrats nominate Sanders and the Republicans nominate Trump. But the real issue here is, why is it possible there'll be such an opening? It's not about Mike Bloomberg. It's about how angry everyone is. That's what's driving this whole phenomenon. That's what's driving the idea that a third-party candidacy is even possible, which, by the way, we all know third-party candidacies have rarely succeeded in this country.
I can't see him drawing many Republican voters with his liberal positions. He was a lifelong Democrat. The only reason he switched was because he wanted to have an easy nomination when he was running for mayor.
Yeah, Michael Bloomberg works very well in New York City, but not very well in other places around America. I think there are two things happening here. One, I think he's a little bit envious that he sees his fellow New York billionaire Donald Trump getting close to actually pulling
billionaire
this off.
envy here?
I think there's a little billionaire envy. But I also think that Michael Bloomberg is a very smart man. He's not stupid. He sees what's happening on the Democratic side. Mrs. Clinton's numbers are very soft and getting softer. She could, in fact, lose Iowa and New Hampshire. He also sees that the FBI is closing in on Mrs. Clinton.
I'm going to get to that in a second.
And if she's not the nominee, I think he sees that he could have a real opening here in a very soft Democratic primary, regardless of who the Democratic nominee is.
A source close to the Bloomberg group now said, well, if Hillary gets indicted, he's going to leave open the option of jumping in. So he's probably thinking down the road, I think, as Monica suggested.
That's right. Look, we have all this talk about maybe an open convention for the Republicans in Cleveland. We might be talking about, as Monica's written about, we might be talking about the wrong convention. The Democratic convention could be the one that's awfully exciting.
Yeah. All right. Let me go to Hillary. So we have the Inspector General last week of the intelligence community, and he's talking about SAPs, higher classification than top secret. As the Hill said today, that is a game changer. Here's Hillary not blaming the Inspector General appointed by Obama, confirmed by a Democratic majority in the Senate. Nope, vast right-wing conspiracy. Watch this.
No, I'm not concerned because I know what the facts are. I never sent or received any material marked classified. I cannot control what the Republicans leak and what they are contending.
Let me put up on the screen 15 specific federal laws that Rudy Giuliani, former prosecutor before he became mayor, has identified. And we'll run that on the side of the screen as you analyze this. But SAP, higher classification than top secret. Does this now raise this to the level, as the Hill says, it's a game changer? Could she possibly get the FBI recommending an indictment and maybe an indictment?
The underlying problem and why this is so confusing is that we have no idea. There's vast amounts of classified material, a lot of it overclassified, some of it changed classifications in between. Whether she knowingly did something that would make her liable or whether someone else in the operation did something is what the investigation presumably is all about. You and I have both been journalists a long time, and we've both been through a lot of scandals. Most of the time, the real issue in the scandal is what the voters decide the scandal says about the character of the candidate.
But wouldn't,
and that's, I think, what will really happen.
Let me ask you, though, as a matter of law, because she signed this non-disclosure agreement. She signed when she became Secretary of State. She sent out a memo to everybody else in the State Department, don't use a private server.
That's right.
And here we're talking about, special access programs that are above top secret. Every single incident, if it's dozens of emails, that seems that every one of those could be a potential felony charge for her.
Potential if she knew it.
But the law suggests that you don't need to know. At that point, it would be mishandling of classified information.
Right. Look, you don't know immediately. That's the whole point about being Secretary of State. You get all this intelligence from the ground, and then they figure out what's real and what's not real. The fact is that's why you don't have a Secretary of State that gets to make the discretion of what email she keeps and what email deletes. Remember, she's done two things wrong here. She's mishandled the information she got in her email, and she deleted 30,000 emails we'll never see.
And alter the classification through a surrogate.
Look, if you're a Secretary of State, you should be operating under the assumption that every bit of material comes to you is classified. That's number one. If you think about this, Sean, over the last week, we've gotten 3 major leaks on this case. The potential for the Pentagon to demote General David Petraeus, which they're likely not going to do. That had nothing to do with Petraeus.
That is just, they're out for blood.
That was a warning shot against Hillary that if we want to take you out, we can. The second leak we got was the Intel Community's IG Inspector General saying he needed a higher security clearance even to look at the documents in question. And then yesterday we heard
members of Congress on intelligence committees don't have clearance to see
they had to get higher clearances to read in on these documents. And what we got yesterday, what was reported, was that her aides were asked to actually physically cut and paste some of these top secret documents into other documents so that she could get them and resend them. Somebody is leaking this to keep this story fresh, and it's not the Republicans.
Here's what I want to know. Does this rise to a level beyond Petraeus? And if Loretta Lynch decides not to follow the FBI's conclusions, if they in fact conclude that crimes were committed, how big a scandal does that become?
Well, it's a significant scandal at the legal point, but more important, the real issue here, and whether this is the question of her weak poll numbers, is whether public reaction is beginning to feel that this is a problem in the way she handles it.
It's rising to that level. I do.
Hard to tell. I think polling is all off, all over the place, and I have no idea.
We're going to know in a week, right?
Right, and it's worth waiting for the vote.
We can wait a week.
I guarantee you the polling isn't that off. Hillary Clinton's in trouble. That's the one thing we're getting from these polls.
And she'll lose New Hampshire. Iowa's, maybe she'll lose.
That's right. You lose the first 2, boy, you're in trouble.
She's in trouble.
There are 2 tracks here. There's the legal track, which we've been talking about with the FBI. But then if it moves to a recommendation to the DOJ and Loretta Lynch, then it becomes a largely political matter. And that's the president's call. And I think if she were dominating both the Democrat and Republican fields by like 20 points, they'd leave her alone. But she is incredibly vulnerable, and